Hi, my name is Zamudio, and this is going to be my second analysis of Edgar Allan Poe's Tales of Mystery and Horror. Now, in relation to the first story of this week, the Mask of Red Death, I would say that if I were to put a character from the Oblong Box in the story, then it wouldn't make any difference, because the Red Death symbolizes death itself. No matter what sickness it represents, it doesn't have any category in order to take people down. Like, no matter if young, old, healthy, or sick, the death comes to us all. So, putting a character like the main character, or for example Wyatt, inside the story wouldn't make much of a difference because they all die in the end. So, but in regards to the events before the party of Prince Prospero, then I guess there would be more of an explanation of what exactly the Red Death is. You know, this sickness is quite mysterious because it kind of has no cure and it kills people almost instantly after getting the disease. But if the main character, which is a scientist, I guess, if I'm not wrong, he was a scientist, there would be much of a detailed explanation of why medicine doesn't work on the Red Death, and more of an exploration in depth of what the Red Death symbolizes and why Prince Prospero was so afraid of it, even though it was a really mysterious disease. In regards to the second story, which is Hop Frog, which is by far in the book one of the most violent, raw, yet despite my personal favorite from the entire book, I guess that if a character from Brave New World were to talk with Hop Frog, then they wouldn't differ much on the arguments. Like, if I were to put John the Savage and Hop Frog talking, I guess there would be certain points where they connect. Of course, they will differ in certain arguments, but in general, they would, like, agree with each other because they are against the predominant forms of government. Hop Frog wanted to kill the king and his entire Congress because these people were corrupt, these people were absolutely egocentric and didn't have values, were absolute assholes, if I were to say that way. Meanwhile, John the Savage doesn't understand with the forms of government of the world state because it limits human expression into really, really tiny standards, and it reduces freedom as well, which is one of the most important values in the book, into really low quantities that are almost controlled by the state. So both forms of government are not really the best. So I guess it would be a nice talk, it would be really interesting, not considering Hop Frog's appearance, which might even scare John in any sense or so, because he's heavily stimulated by some things he doesn't understand. Regardless of that, it would really be a cool conversation to see. It would be a good debate, but as I said before, there would be more points where the two characters agree with each other than where they debate with each other. In regards to the third story, which is Words for the Mummy, I couldn't really understand it very well, but I guess the ending would have been different if the mummy had known how to answer that one last question, in which he had to admit the defeat upon the scientists when they asked him, knowing that he was about 5,000 years old, when they asked him if he lived to know how the universe, or acquire the knowledge of how the universe was created. And the mummy responded to this with some statements about spontaneous generation or so, but didn't really answer the question, and that was the ultimate defeat upon the modern scientist, because you can see that he contradicts the scientists most of the time when they tell the mummy these new advances in modern society, and the mummy somehow manages to tell them otherwise. The ending would have been different if the mummy would have known how to answer that question. That is all I have to say. I mean, the spontaneous generation is a good answer, though, but I guess it wasn't enough. Actually, the spontaneous generation theory has been, it's like, I don't know, it's still not completely false for the scientific society, because it has certain facts on its favor. The need of life to be developed under circumstances that include water is reasonable. But I guess the outturn of the story goes around the fact that what is science and what is concrete truths always manage to overcome what has been science in the past. The mummy knows pretty well what is going on in the present. It knows the names of the scientists, and so it knows it has been a whole lot of time since it was buried down. But that one last question was the ultimate key factor that led us to think that the mummy, even though it seems like it's one step ahead of the scientists in regards to technology and knowledge, is also one step behind from them. So, knowing the answer to that one last question would have equilibrated the balance, right? Because if it wasn't for that one question, you would get like the notion that mummies overcome humans in knowledge.